REE Automotive, an Israeli car manufacturer, has made a lot of recent waves with its all-electric Class 4 chassis cab, the P7-C. It's the first vehicle, and that's not just commercial vehicle, but vehicles as a whole. It's the first one to reach fully by-wire certification, so that's drive-by-wire, brake-by-wire, and steer-by-wire that it's been certified as of now. The vehicles also integrate what are known as REE corners. These are modules found between the chassis and each wheel, and they include components for steering, braking, suspension, powertrain, and control. And that architecture allows for a taller cabin design, lowered step-in height, and better volumetric efficiency. The P7-C vehicles are now moving into the demo phase, and those are available at several dealers around the US. We interviewed Kim Mathers, VP of Product Strategy and Marketing at REE, who breaks down how the vehicles work, some of the technology found inside those vehicles, the advantages that offers for fleet managers over their combustion counterparts, incentives available for fleet operators, and what some low-hanging fruit, good indicators may be for you to look at doing a pilot program with a handful of vehicles for your own fleet. Enjoy the interview. Could you tell me a little bit more about the company? So it's an Israeli car manufacturer. Could you give us a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So we think of ourselves as a automotive technology company. The company's headquarters is in Israel, so that remains where a lot of our leadership resides, as well as our Center of Innovation, R&D. We have an engineering and our initial production facility is in the UK. So that's where we productionize really product and process. And then in the US, REE has also an entity and a presence in the US, which is the first market that we are targeting with our P7 family of corners via the P7-C. So I kind of like to think of our global footprint as really the best of all worlds, right? Israel, of course, has a strong reputation and legacy as innovative startup nation. And so the whole premise of our core technology of REE corners and X-by-wire technology was really born out of Israel over 10 years ago now. The UK, of course, is sort of the automotive valley. And so the REE employees there, as well as a lot of facilities such as Ariba Myra that we do a lot of development work with. They have test tracks, sci labs, wind tunnels, climate chambers, etc. So that knowledge and sort of more traditional approach of bringing automotive to market. And then, of course, in the US, great opportunity in the commercial vehicle space with respect to market demand and a lot of substantial tailwinds regarding, regulatory incentives, available incentives, corporate sustainability goals, etc. So I do like to think of it as sort of the best of all worlds combined in this global approach that we have going on at REE.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll get into some of those incentives too. First off, I want to run through the P7-C chassis cab. So that is a class
It's
three
a class
truck?
four. It's a
Class
class four.
four.
So
Okay,
16,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating.
cool. Could you tell us more about that? So it's got the ReCorner technology and X-by-wire, a bunch of new cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So our core technology, which is the REE corner. So corner module, four on a vehicle, all by wire control for drive steering and braking. I believe you're familiar with our recent, or not so recent anymore, certification. We're quite proud of that achievement. We're the first globally to be able to certify a vehicle, not just commercial vehicle, with all three parameters of by-wire control. So if you think about, the traditional function of a vehicle, those drive, steering, and braking systems, moving them all off various locations in the vehicle and into a corner module. And that corner module can be removed and replaced on the vehicle within an hour. So some substantial advantages in terms of serviceability, etc. But when you have a drive unit in a corner and a steering unit in a corner, and you have four identical corners on a vehicle, like we do on P7-C, what that gets you is all-wheel drive and all-wheel steer. So if you think about a class 4 vehicle like the P7-C, which is our first vehicle that we're bringing to market with REE corners, some really notable advantages in terms of low load floor, because you don't have to get up and over exhaust systems, powertrain systems. So we're low, we're flat. The all-wheel drive and the all-wheel steer is notable for being class exclusive. So functionally, a lot of advantages. And that's, within the platform, you take one look at the vehicle, so the cab design, and you're immediately can be struck by how different it is than everything else out there in the market. So sort of the same approach that we took to the function of the vehicle with the REE corner and the X-by-wire, we've taken to the cab as well. Clean sheet of paper. So it's really not at all recognizable to sort of legacy approaches. We weren't, beholden to any existing cab design. So really open, a lot of glass in terms of visibility, some substantial advantages, and it's a full height cab. So 24-inch load floor height, and a 6 foot something person can stand in there fully, which is very unique for the space.
Cool. Could you talk about some of the use cases so it can be used as several different types of vehicles, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a chassis cab. So the rear of the vehicle can be upfit to be customizable for any particular use case. So what we're finding is a lot of interest from delivery applications, sort of a traditional approach, but also vocational applications. So landscaping, one of our first vehicles has been upfit with a Knapheide KUV service body. So really endless potential applications, and it's really advantageous because the benefits of REE corner and X-by-wire and our cab design really translate nicely, sometimes in different ways, to all of these different applications.
Cool. What sort of range does the vehicle have? I know it's kind of modular, so maybe that can change depending on how you lay the powertrain out, or
Yeah, so I mean, powertrain design is fixed, right? We have a 3-in-1 drive unit in each of our corners, so they're all-wheel drive. Our standard condition for batteries is 126 kilowatt hours. So our stated range is 150 miles based on the chassis cab alone. So yeah, that'll vary depending on the end use application, what's put on the back end, how it's used, how it's driven, all of the parameters that can impact actual range. But for our P7-C, for our chassis cab, it's 150 miles.
okay, cool. Um, so we're finding out, well, fleet managers are finding out that it's not just about going and calling REE or someone else and selecting a few vehicles and going and talking to Eaton or someone else and laying out some charging stations. There's a lot more that goes into it. Could you talk about some of the first steps that a fleet manager would take when they're considering, maybe starting transitioning to electric? Like, would you recommend they start with a pilot vehicle or two, and then how do you get depot charging set up, and what are all that? There's just this complicated puzzle that people have to figure out. What do you recommend people do first couple steps if they're looking at going electric? They see the advantages already.
Sure. So for a fleet manager who's interested in making the move to electrification, it is not as simple as just selecting a vehicle, putting it into use. And it is an adjustment, electrification, but not doesn't need to be as overwhelming as it may initially seem, right? What's really important, I think, and what's really advantageous for commercial fleet applications versus, say, passenger car applications is that it's a known use, whatever that may be, right? It's a known use, and it's typically going back to the same location every day, every night, on a regular basis. So the use is known. It's not as though, and personal or passenger car usage, you or I might need to protect for twice a year visiting family 500 miles away or something like that. So commercial vehicle applications are actually an exceptional first application for electrification. So first is just to understand the application, which helps you understand what sort of range, what sort of parameters are required. It's certainly not, you know, silver bullet application for everything, but there are many applications where required range is, I think, average for delivery is well less than 100 miles per day, for example. So there are many applications where immediately today, without substantial service increases from your utility provider, you can implement that today. So just encourage fleet owners, first of all, to understand their application. Find the optimal first use case, right? It doesn't need to be an all-in exercise where you transition 100% immediately. What are those specific applications where you are most likely to achieve success initially? And then it is, again, what's the most appropriate vehicle? The upfit, we have announced a number of partnerships with bodybuilders. It's really important, especially with these, some of these new electric vehicles, right? There's additional development that's required on the side of the bodybuilder. And so REE has been working with bodybuilders, like, for example, Napide. Our platform, much like it does for fleet users and drivers, provides advantages to bodybuilders from a low and flat platform, from plug and play approaches for after sales electrical applications like locking and rear camera, for example. And so all with the intention of bodybuilders being ready to be able to provide bodies when chassis can be purchased by dealers and fleets. And then I think, you know, from the market's perspectives, you hear about challenges with respect to service, utility, availability. And I think the key there is that, you know, if you're not talking many megawatt applications, to add a couple of level 2 chargers, especially overnight when the demand from the commercial application might not be there, does not necessarily need to be as daunting as it may initially appear. So I guess in summary, advice is pick the best applications. Doesn't need to be an all-in approach, and just get started. There's a lot of regulations on the horizon that are going to apply to fleet owners, and there's really no time like the present to get started, get educated, and start learning and implementing.
Yeah, totally. What would be an example of a really low hanging fruit? Maybe a vehicle that has a lot high emission, or something that's, you know, we based on our telematics, we use this vehicle exactly this exact same way. It's a short distance, or any other low hanging fruits that maybe they would
Yeah,
look at replacing a vehicle?
those are good examples of parameters that are beneficial and sort of ripe for electrification. Is known route, consistent route, from a social benefit, you know, noisy start and stop traffic inducing applications can provide, you know, immediate benefits for the community from a noise and emissions perspective. So all important considerations. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's really knowing that whatever you want to use that particular vehicle for, that it's going to fit the needs of the application.
Awesome. So can the vehicles be demoed anywhere? Are they available at any dealers, or how would someone come and check out a car?
Yeah, that's a great
Sure.
question. So we've recently entered what we are referring to as our demonstration phase. So vehicles are now beginning to be in the hands of dealers. Notable announcements that we've said publicly is, for example, Pritchard EV. So more to come soon from the dealer on specific events and applications. But throughout the country, dealers will be holding demo events so we encourage fleets to contact their REE dealers. You can find information on REE.auto, find a dealer, and to communicate with dealers regarding any upcoming events in their area. But that's exactly the intent, and why we decided to go with this dealer demo phase, is to be able to, you know, instead of in the hands of like a single customer to be able to get them in the hands of dealers so that they can sort of maximize the reach and exposure of our P7-C Class 4 trucks.
Cool. Are they available for leasing for anyone who's like really kind of on the edge, want to do a really short pilot, or?
Not at this time, no. So we're in demo phase now, but we'll be moving later in the year to the next phase.
Cool. And last question from me, can we go back to the tax credit? So it's eligible for the $40,000 tax credit, right?
It is, yes. So that's the federal tax credit. And then we have, I would say, not so recently achieved CARB certification, which makes us eligible for some of the more substantial state credits. So California and some others, for example, on the East Coast, New York, New Jersey. And so some of those can be even more lucrative than the federal 40,000.
Awesome. Well, those are all the questions from me. Anything else you want to add?
We hit that we're nearly CARB, so that was incremental
Yeah.
to what you last wrote about. The dealer, thank you for the opportunity on the dealer demo stuff. That was a good incremental piece of info, but I can't think of anything else.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for your time. Let's chat here in a week or so when we get
Yeah.
this out to you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. It was nice to meet you.